welcome back, everyone, to this week's edition of the Heelcast. We are covering just now, Impact Wrestling. I believe it was April 6, 2017. I could be wrong. This week, I'm your host, the RAV, Raven Effect. Joining me this week is the one, the only, the real FK9. FK9, what's happening, my man?
Nothing much. You almost slipped up there for a second. We don't use those 3 letters anymore.
I know, much to my disappointment.
Yeah, we need some kind of sound effect, like a gong or a buzzer every time one of us uses that.
How about a dummy? Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I'll scour YouTube, see if I can come up with something.
That would be the best thing ever on here. Joining us as well is nobody. So it's just FK9 and myself this week. We thought Kyle was going to be here. That did not turn out to be the case. I know Kyle kind of got caught up doing some family stuff and kind of overshot it. So you're just getting the Fool Killer and the Raven Effect this week, everyone. Well, FK9, just to give everyone a heads up, always check out impactasylum.net. At impactasylum.net, you can always check out Straight Shooting with my man FK9. Always up there. Your new episode came out yesterday, right? Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So check that out. Check out our man, numero 47 with Diva Dirt. Also check out our boy, Andre Corbeil. We know Andre Corbeil. He's wanting to work with FK9, wants to come on the Heelcast. He said almost happened last year. We just never got around to it. But definitely, Andre, you're always welcome on here. We need to get a hold of you soon to set this up to have Andre Corbeil on the Heelcast as well. So FK9 for the news. Kyle did for me that Impact Wrestling is now on Snapchat. I don't know exactly what this does. Maybe we'll see Josh Matthews with like puppy face, ears, and tongue hanging out, or like some kitten stuff. I don't know the point in Impact Wrestling on Snapchat. I guess maybe because I'm a guy, I don't get it too much. FK9, any thoughts on Impact on Snapchat?
I'm also a Snapchat neophyte. I don't really know what that does exactly, or even if it does anything. I guess it's one more social media platform that Josh Matthews can use to make it a damn jackass of himself. So, yay. Aside from that, does it really do anything? I'm not really sure. I mean, I stick to my Twitter when it comes to social media platforms. Twitter, some Tumblr. I have a Facebook, but I don't really use it. Snapchat, I think I'm all social media out at that point.
Yeah, same here. I've got female friends that all seem to be Google Gaga over the Snapchat, but normally like they just take a photo and they add little side effects and stuff that like put a crown of flowers around their head, or like some dog ears and a panting tongue and a dog nose, or a cat ears and cat nose and whatever. So I don't really get it. Maybe some of our listeners do. Maybe Kyle does. Kyle's got the youth on his side that we don't have. Yeah, I guess congratulations. Good job, Impact. All right. So moving on, FK9, Aaron, or as I like to call him, Aaron Rex, has done an Impact Wrestling. Apparently, he's got other interests other than wrestling that he's going to pursue. He did say don't consider him retired, but he is officially done in Impact Wrestling. I know you were really high on Aaron Rex when he came into Impact. What are your thoughts on him departing?
Sadly, it doesn't feel like much of a loss. And I don't like saying that because I maintain that this is a super talented guy that for one reason or another, they just couldn't get him to click exactly, which kind of baffles me because when he was in WWE, I mean, this guy really impressed the hell out of me with his ability to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, to put it politely, make a feast out of a shit sandwich, whatever you want to call it. But he took some really terrible gimmicks that really had no right to get over, and he made something entertaining out of them. So I'm not sure what went wrong, but, they brought him in as a babyface. It didn't really work. Something was missing, and then they turned him heel, and I think they were close to getting it to click, and then he started with the Liberace gimmick, and it just, I don't know, it just wasn't for me. I don't think it was for a lot of people, and now he's just quietly left. And I lament the loss of potential, the star that could have been there, because I'm a fan of the guy, just not the gimmick he was playing. So it's a loss, but I guess it's not as big a loss as it might have felt like a couple of months ago, and that's a shame.
Yeah, it is. When the guy very first came in to Impact Wrestling last year as a babyface, his debut, he cut that skating promo and it was like, all right, this dude is fire. And then it fizzled out really fast. They put the Impact Grand Championship on the guy, and that seemed to kind of flop. They gave him a big victory over Eddie Edwards to be that first champion at Bound for Glory. Rumor is, Drew Galloway would have had that belt had he not gotten injured. Who knows what would have happened if him and Drew Galloway would have had that feud. It may have actually really escalated Aaron Rex and taken him places, but he failed as a babyface. And yeah, I'm in the minority from what I understand, because I love the gimmick that he's doing, or he was doing, this Liberace. I thought it was great. I thought the way he portrayed it was great, but I know I'm in the minority because most people just didn't seem to enjoy it. Maybe the guy's heart wasn't in pro wrestling anymore, and that's a shame. But, I remember before I even knew who he was, I remember WWE fans on the internet going crazy about how this Damien Sandow and Mick Foley rivalry was supposed to be this huge thing. And it's a bit of a shame. The guy really could have done a lot of stuff for Impact Wrestling. Maybe his heart wasn't in it. Maybe he just wasn't really giving it his all. It's probably safe to say that he wasn't necessarily busting his ass for the business. But, FK9, a guy who is busting his ass for the business is DJz.
Good segue.
Literally. So DJz got injured over the weekend. I heard he's got a ruptured colon.
I think fractured.
From what happened wrestling for Crash. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I think it was a fractured colon, which surprised me because I didn't know you could fracture your colon. I didn't know you could fracture a colon. Yeah, news to me. Really unfortunate. I feel bad for the guy because he just got over a number of other injuries that he was working through, and he kind of felt like he was on his way back to 100%, and now this happens to stall him again. I guess the silver lining, if you want to see it, is that it's kind of happening at an opportune time. Not that there's ever a good time to get injured, but at least it's happening at a time when he's not really in the title picture. And so they don't really have to write around an injury or have him to work through an injury or anything. Maybe he can just take a few weeks off and heal up. And supposedly, he says there weren't any complications, so he should heal up just fine. At least they won't have to rejigger any storylines to accommodate the injury or whatever. So it sucks that he got injured, but at least no permanent damage or lasting damage was done, and that's a relief at least.
I can't even imagine the pain that DJz went through. I mean, I remember the guy his opponent or someone with him there was saying they've never seen a guy in so much pain as to what DJz was in. So I'm a big fan of DJz. I did take a little cheap shot joke there, but there's nothing funny about what happened to this poor guy. Prayers, best of recovery. DJz's had some health scares in the past, and he's given his all, and he's strictly been for Impact Wrestling. So DJz, if you are listening somehow or out there, please know, get better, get well soon. We appreciate everything you do. I'm very sorry to hear about this. FK9, I kind of skipped over one thing I wanted to discuss with you here because I just kind of went into that busting his ass transition. But so Rockstar Spud, with Aaron Rex gone, Rockstar Spud, ring announcer. What do you think? Do you think they should keep him at the ring announcer, or they should put him back in the ring? If you were in charge, your booking cap on, what would you do with Rockstar Spud?
No. Spud is way too good and too versatile to not be a talent of some kind. To just have him be the ring announcer when JB could easily do that in addition to everything else JB is doing, now that's just a waste of a good talent. And, we've talked a lot in the past about how underutilized Spud is and how entertaining he can be and how good he is at, just about everything any role they put him in. I mean, you've gone off previously about how he could be like the new Bobby Heenan or something, in which he he could be that type of character, or you could put him back in the X division if you want, or somewhere else in the tag division with somebody. I mean, the guy can do pretty much anything. So to have him be the ring announcer, no, that'd just be a waste.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I'm not saying he's done a bad job as a ring announcer, and I do think that the ring announcer is like an important thing to sell. As far as making matches seem big and whatnot, especially heavyweight title matches. I mean, remember Michael Buffer and WCW, etc. But the guy is too damn good to be the ring announcer. He can wrestle. Yeah, I do think he could be like the next Bobby Heenan. I think right now the art of being a manager in pro wrestling is pretty much washed and done. I think Maria Kanellis did a great job of it. But the time is now for Rockstar Spud to really be the next great heel manager in pro wrestling, and I don't think there's anyone that can do it better than him. I'd like to see him kind of be a manager of champions. EC3 doesn't necessarily need a manager because he's probably the best talker in wrestling, but I'd love to see those two paired back together. A heel turn for someone like Reno Scum, who, could definitely use a manager, things like that. I'm sure him and Eli Drake could really come up with some gold stuff together as well. They got him do something with this guy because it's a waste of talent not to, and I hope that he just doesn't end up settling for the ring announcer.
Yeah, he's way too good to just be wasted as a ring announcer because, like the greatest of all time, like the GOAT said not that long ago, anybody can be a ring announcer. So why have it be a guy who could be so good at doing something else? Make Brandy the ring announcer. That way we get her out of the ring.
Yeah, I agree. We can get either Brandy or maybe, let's say, I don't know, Josh Matthews is the next ring announcer so we can get him off of commentary. Either or works, right?
Yeah, hey, you can bring SoCal Val back and let her do it.
Right.
At least she was nice to look at.
Yeah, Christy, too. I'm sure she's probably got better options in life, but, hey, I love looking at Christy.
As do we all.
Absolutely. So we heard DJZ got hurt. So there was something that came out yesterday. There was some indie promotion that was supposed to have Eddie Edwards wrestling for him this weekend, and they said that Eddie Edwards was injured in Japan and Impact Wrestling hadn't cleared him. I haven't heard any word or information as to what exactly happened to Eddie Edwards or how long or significant his injury is, if it's even real. FK9, have you heard anything about this?
No, I'm just as much in the dark about that as you are. All I heard was that he got injured, and whereas the injury to DJZ will only keep him out for a couple of weeks and probably won't require them to make any last-minute changes with the storyline, this could end up hurting Eddie Edwards somewhat. We don't know how long he's going to be out for, but if it's any real length of time, well, he's right in the middle of a big feud with Davey Richards right now, and it's one of the more high-profile feuds on the show. That may cause them to take a detour with that. So we don't know how it's going to impact that. It's pretty bad timing for Eddie Edwards, so get well soon, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess the only positive is I guess this could potentially sell the Eddie Edwards, Davey Richards feud from what happened in the match, which we can discuss later. But yeah, I hope it's not serious. Best of luck to Eddie. It would suck to lose Eddie for the rest of the year, especially this being Davey's last year in pro wrestling, apparently. So hopefully it's not too serious. Hopefully Eddie will be performing here in a couple weeks at the tapings. But we'll move on from there. Hopefully it's not too serious, of course. Now, so apparently Matt Hardy is not broken anymore. In the WWE, apparently there was a tweet that went out from Matt Hardy saying that returning to the WWE made him not broken anymore. Technically, this is WWE, but obviously it has a direct effect on Impact Wrestling, especially with this lawsuit going on. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think there's necessarily a rhyme or reason behind it, or do you just think it's Vince being Vince because he doesn't get it?
Do we know for sure if this was the WWE just not wanting to do the gimmick, or is it because of the lawsuit? Because I heard that Rebby had all the broken stuff trademarked, so WWE, I thought WWE would be able to use it. Is it just that they don't want to do it?
I have no idea. I hadn't heard about that. I didn't know she had everything trademarked because as far as I knew, the lawsuit was still going on, or potential lawsuit was still going on.
Okay, I heard it wasn't settled yet, but supposedly I heard that somewhere that Rebby had all the stuff trademarked, so it was probably just a matter of putting the paperwork through. But if we're just assuming that they would have the rights to use the Broken Universe gimmick, here's an interesting question. Is Vince just choosing to not do the gimmick better or worse than him doing the Broken Universe and then completely butchering it all to hell. Because I have to admit, there was a morbidly curious part of me that was kind of looking forward to watching them just completely turning that thing into a big fucking train wreck.
I'm in the middle. Like, I didn't want to see it because I didn't want to turn in their product, but I did want to see how bad they would ruin it, in a way. Because if they did it, they would have fucked it up.
Oh, hell yeah. That's totally a thing that Vince McMahon would just not understand. I mean, he tried to copy it once when the New Day invaded the Wyatt's compound. It went over like a lead balloon, and he never tried to copy it again after that. If he were to have access to the actual gimmick, it doesn't surprise me that he would just want to just wash his hands of the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so if you had Matt Hardy doing it or giving him creative control, it would just kill Vince and his 27 writers to not have every word scripted and written their way, and I'm sure it would come off just terrible. I don't like to admit this, but last Monday, the Raw after WrestleMania, I was flicking through the channels that happened to be the start of Raw, and I saw this thing with Roman Reigns where the guy couldn't say like a word for like 10 minutes before he finally said whatever sentence he said. But I stayed tuned because the next match was the Hardys. And here's my perspective on this, is that they don't need the broken gimmick there, because literally everyone, like when Roman Reigns was trying to talk, they were chanting delete, delete, delete. When the Hardys came out, the entire audience, delete, 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 Brother Nero chants. WWE doesn't need the broken gimmick because a broken gimmick is already so over that everyone in their audience chants it when they come out. I think the only thing this really affects is Matt Hardy will probably never, ever, ever, ever become more than mid-card enhancement talent there if they do the solo thing again. But the thing is, like, they don't need it now because every time the Hardys come out, they're still looked at as broken. They don't even have to act that way. And the fact is, if Impact did win this lawsuit, now by them just dropping it and not doing it, they don't have to pay them 10% of whatever the Hardys are making or whatever revenue they may intake. And Hardys did a good-ass job getting this thing over. I got to give them props to that. And WWE probably doing the smart thing. That's my honest opinion to it. Because they spent 2 days and decided, hey, we don't even need to use it because it uses itself and we can just get away with it pretty much. That's my honest take on it.
Yeah, I guess in a way it's kind of a blessing in disguise for the Hardys, because if they had to end it, at least they ended it when it was really hot and it could pretty much sell itself. But on the other side of that coin, it also means that after they drop it, it means that Matt is going back to being in Jeff's shadow. And it kind of sucks for him because he worked awfully hard to differentiate himself. And for a while last year, he actually did become a bigger star than Jeff, which is something a lot of people never really thought would happen. So just when he's finally done it, it gets taken away from him. So I kind of feel bad for Matt, but it's business, and if this means that WWE were trying to do everything they can to not have to pay TNA royalties or whatever, if that was even on the table, I guess we had to expect them to go in that direction. So, whatever.
Yeah. Dude, it is kind of sad in a way for Matt because, yeah, for the very, very, very first time ever, Jeff was actually more in Matt's shadow. However, since all of this stuff has went down, Jeff has been way more professional and a lot more easygoing and, positive when talked about his time with Impact Wrestling than Matt has. So as far as feeling bad for Matt Hardy, fuck Matt Hardy. That's kind of how I look at it. So, and last week, FKN, we talked, you, Chef, and myself, we just kind of briefly talked about, why we do this and how Impact Wrestling kind of gets a bad name from almost every site out there. Every coverage and, good God, what do you call it, like Dirt Sheet and all that, they all kind of shit and knock on TNA at all times. A lot of it is just super unjustified from people who aren't paying attention, just want to knock it to knock it. We kind of explain this is why we do what we do, because we want someone to get an honest perspective on TNA or Impact Wrestling that's not just going to shit all over the product just because it's a thing to do or because WWE pays the websites to do it or whatever it actually is. We don't do that. We're actually people going out there trying to spread the positive word of Impact Wrestling. So one thing that I'm asking is just for our listeners of the Heelcast, of FK9's show, just if you have Twitter or whatever, retweet us. Get the word out so Impact Wrestling can try and grow, so we can try and get more of a positive voice out there for Impact Wrestling. Just do that for either of our show. and Andre Corbeil's show as well. I mean, just try and spread that word. And, you know, I was on Facebook, my personal Facebook, which is non-wrestling related, but so, and I follow Rashad Evans, and Rashad Evans, the MMA fighter, it's not really him. He's like, I give him a like because he's one of my favorite fighters, but his account itself is not like actually him. It's just like it's a media thing. But it shows this thing of an Impact Wrestling ring, and it says, watch Rampage Jackson hurdle the WWE ropes to get in the face of Kurt Angle or something. And it's like, this is... Exactly. So obviously it's Impact Wrestling, but they're saying it's WWE, and this is like the hurdle that Impact Wrestling has. I mean, people are talking like Impact has to get on a better TV channel in the United States than what they have with Pop TV. Well, it's not going to happen when the ratings are where they're at. Impact Wrestling as a whole needs to grow for this to happen. They need to get better ratings on Pop for a better network to pick them up. We, like, as Impact Wrestling fans, we got to try and do something to help them with more viewers. Because, look, Impact Wrestling does not market very well. So go out there and spread the word. And it's like, you know what the thing that I bring up with this whole Rampage Jackson thing is that that's how people look at pro wrestling. Everything with pro wrestling revolves around the WWE, whether it's something with Impact or Ring of Honor. When people think pro wrestling, they think WWE, and that's exactly what this was. I guess the benefit for Impact Wrestling is when something bad happens with pro wrestling, like a kid kills another one with a pile driver, that goes to WWE too. But I guess like the point I'm trying to make is that we got to try and help spread the word for Impact Wrestling to at least get more people to maybe open their minds towards it. Am I right here, FK9? Like, do you feel me a little bit here?
Oh, I feel you. Hashtag no homo. Impact/TNA has been like the redheaded stepchild of wrestling for a long time. If people even know it exists, odds are they just look at it as like a distant second to WWE, and like WWE is like the be-all, end-all. That's what they'd have us believe anyway. It just kind of sucks that a lot of people just don't seem to want to give the company a chance anymore. And, you know, it's going to be an uphill battle to change that. But, you know, we got to start somewhere. So just try to tweet some positivity. You know, forget about the hashtag fuck that owl nonsense and tweet something positive for a change. You know, retweet the Heelcast, retweet Andre's show, retweet my show. You know, couldn't hurt. Better than kicking a company when they're down anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. The company that's trying to make positive changes. And like the other thing here, the other example that I wanted to show is and look, one casual fan doesn't speak for all casual fans and whatnot, but I have a friend, my buddy Sean is like all about WWE, just loves everything WWE. Years and years ago would not watch wrestling and tell me how terrible it was. Somehow he gets into WWE in like 2012 when they're the worst fucking thing on the planet. And Sean has terrible taste, but anyways, so he said something, and a girl who no longer watches wrestling but used to watch wrestling back in the Attitude Era kind of days and a little bit past her, the Ruthless Aggression, all that. She had said something, and she was like, oh, I wouldn't be able to follow wrestling. I haven't watched it in a couple of years and whatnot. And I had said, you know, check out Impact Wrestling. It's way better than the WWE. Just give it a shot. So this girl, as a casual fan, so I'm kind of surprised that the things that she said actually came out of her mouth or, you know, on the keyboard. But she said, I can't watch Impact Wrestling. I watched it a couple years ago, and it was terrible, just like WWE was. Impact Wrestling was almost as bad as ROH. And so, I mean, I kind of dug into it, and it's like, it was either like the Hogan Bischoff era years that she had seen Impact Wrestling, and that gave a bad taste in her mouth, or it was like the terrible John Gaburek menagerie and Samuel Shaw and
that was an unfortunate time to try to get into the product.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, so like when you're judging that and people have seen Impact Wrestling, they see that and they don't give it a second chance. With the WWE, they might. I mean, what I'm trying to say is like Heelcast Nation listening, FK9's listeners, Andre Corbeil's listeners, I mean, just try and put the positive word out there, reach it around, because you never know. One casual viewer, you know, like if you can get someone to just tune in, who knows what could happen. It may get them hooked each week. It may have them tell their friends, you know, other casual viewers, other wrestling fans just may tune in just for the hell of it. So just try and put the positive word out there for Impact Wrestling, and try and just spread around the stuff about the positive people, that are actually out there. Because there's a lot of dirt sheets that just write shit about Impact Wrestling and crap on it when they tweet out about it or when they're writing their reviews. So when you have potential wrestling fans that go on there and look and watch a little recap, when someone's writing up a recap and shitting all over the product, I mean, what good's it going to do?
And just to add one more thing, it's pretty much widely accepted right now that WWE is announcing plans to start a new UK-based promotion, essentially to kill World of Sports, because World of Sports was restarting their own promotion over there. And I don't really know much about that, but Impact Wrestling was quick to form a partnership with World of Sports, and maybe that's going to lead to like some talent exchange or whatever. I don't know what's going on there or what the particulars of the deal is exactly, but here we've got WWE trying to monopolize a lot of talent. I'm pretty sure that's how Drew Galloway, now Drew McIntyre again, wound up in NXT, because he was bound for World of Sports, presumably, and now WWE scooped him up because he was a potential, quote-unquote game-changing talent for them, and they don't want him to have him. Here we have Impact partnering with another promotion, trying to help them succeed, whereas WWE is trying to put everybody else out of business. Can anyone out there explain to me why we should be rooting for WWE to do this? Because they're getting really serious about wanting a monopoly in the entire business, and that's not going to lead to good things for anyone. I mean, to have a healthy business, you need competition. You need everybody to be doing well. If nothing else, then because it gives the wrestlers other places to work. And you can't have WWE just monopolizing everything and having the entire business be under their umbrella. It's not going to lead to good things. It's going to lead to stagnation. And Impact Wrestling is, even though it's not in a great place currently, it's one of the only companies that are capable of at least stalling that. So here they are, they're partnering with AAA, they're partnering with World of Sports and Crash Lucha and Pro Wrestling Noah and whoever else. They want other companies to succeed. They want all companies to succeed. And WWE are just looking out for themselves. So tweet something positive if you checked out of the show in the past. And I wouldn't blame you if you had, because in the past the show wasn't really that great. There were times when I kind of wanted to check out too, during the Aces and Eights, during some of the other eras we won't get into now. But yeah, there were times when it wasn't that good. You know what? It's gotten better since then. Okay, maybe it's not a home run every week, but by and large, it's a good show, and it's been a good show for quite a while. So give it a shot. What have you got to lose? 2 hours of your life? You'd rather miss 2 hours of your life than 47 hours of content on the WWE Network that they're putting out every week? Come on.
Absolutely. And WWE is just very recently in talks to try and buy out Ring of Honor too. So there's always that. And exactly the point FK9 was making. So Impact fans, just try and spread the word out there. To move on to the actual Impact Wrestling product, we opened the show with actual wrestling match. We had the namer of dummies, the master of badassery, Mr. Eli Drake, against Caleb Konley. Good to see both of these guys getting TV time. Eli Drake getting the win. I'm not necessarily sure why they felt the need to have him kind of have Tyrus do some dirty tricks on the outside, because you would think Eli Drake could probably get the victory over Caleb Konley on his own. But a decent way to kick off Impact. A nice change for once around there, I guess I should say. FK9, what were your thoughts on this one?
I like when they change up the way the show begins and they don't start it the same way every week. It's nice that they're not beholden to any particular pattern, like, say, Raw is, for example, where they pretty much start with a half-hour promo segment every single week. Starting it in different ways from time to time is nice. I question why they started it with this particular segment. The show begins, and we got Eli Drake and Caleb Konley already in the ring, and then the bell rings immediately and they go at it. It didn't really make sense because there's no storyline support for this. It's basically just a random match. It's a good match. I like seeing Eli Drake get the win. I don't see why he should need Tyrus to get the win, but whatever. It's not really relevant here. But you'd think that starting the show instantly with action should be reserved for storylines where the two guys where there's so much mutual hatred between them that they just can't wait until like the top of the hour or whatever to tear each other apart. It should be reserved for feuds that have to start immediately because the guys just don't want to wait. So in that sense, I think it would have made a lot more sense to start with Davey versus Eddie. Because, I mean, there was no reason why Eli Drake versus Caleb Konley couldn't have waited for later. In my mind, starting with Davey and Eddie would have made a lot more sense than this.
I should have a point there. It wasn't something I had thought about myself. I was kind of refreshed to see a random match put together to start off the show. It's just been a while for me since that's happened. It kind of reminds me of the older days in wrestling, so I'm not going to complain. It's nice to see Eli Drake get a victory. It's nice to see Caleb Konley on TV when he's not wearing a mask based off of a video game that kind of failed. So, props to having both guys on TV. Good victory for Eli Drake. Hopefully things continue to go from there, and we see more of Eli Drake, and his reported meeting with Jeff Jarrett doesn't lead to maybe a demotion or a lack of a push or using the guy improperly. But so FK9, you and I just talked about how we need to be more positive and, get the positive word out about Impact Wrestling. But to be honest, dude, we keep it real on this show, and sometimes there's some shit that you just can't really be too positive about. I don't know your thoughts on this, but there was this Knockouts Battle Royal, and it was not good in my opinion at all. I'm going to let you go ahead and kick it off, your thoughts on the Knockouts Gauntlet Battle Royal.
Oh, boy. All right, look, all due respect to the Knockouts, but let's just call a spade here. This segment sucked. Not just because the announcers were basically ignoring it because they were too busy fighting amongst themselves, and you had Pope the only one trying to focus on the match. Don't get me started on that. But first of all, you got a bunch of women fighting for a title shot. Several of the people in the match are not even members of the roster. Meanwhile, Laurel Van Ness and Allie and Sienna, probably the three current hottest and most interesting knockouts who are not the champion, are not even involved. You leave them backstage and put a bunch of nobodies and non-contracted talents in the match instead? Explain that to me. The match itself was not good. There were a lot of sloppy spots. It wasn't an effective showcase for anybody. At one point, Madison Rayne stopped Rebel from eliminating Ava Story. Why? It's a battle royal. You want everyone to get eliminated. Just a clunker of a match in any way you look at it. Then there's the people who are actually in the match. Brandy Rhodes is fucking terrible. Casey Quinn / Ava Story / whatever you want to call her. They've changed her name a couple times now. She looked green as grass. Amanda Carolina Rodriguez wasn't even in ring shape. She's lugging around a spare tire that's bigger than mine, and she couldn't even execute a fucking clothesline properly. MJ Jenkins was probably the best of the hopefuls, but she still looked kind of unsure of what to do at times. I mean, overall, I didn't think any of those girls looked ready for TV, and yeah, I'm including Brandy Rhodes in that group. And these are the best prospective knockouts that you could come up with, Impact? That was the best you could do? When there are women out there like Jennifer Blake and Shauna and Toni Storm who probably would have jumped at the chance that you could have called instead? Really? You kidding me? Santana Garrett and Leva Bates were at these TV tapings for Knockouts Knockdown. Why are they sitting in the back when these ham and eggers are all vying for a title shot on TV? I mean, put them in the fucking match. They could have made it a lot better. And then there's ODB winning. Look, I think we all saw that coming. It still made me facepalm a little bit. I don't think she has any business being anywhere near the Knockouts title anymore. If they're just booking that so ODB can put over Rosemary, okay. But I am not convinced that that is the plan. I'm still very nervous that they might actually have Rosemary lose the title to ODB. So I'm still seeing a lot of red flags and warning signs on the horizon. In my opinion, Diamante should have won this match. She's in LAX. The Decay are feuding with LAX. It just makes sense. Not to mention that Diamante Rosemary would absolutely be a much better match, and the crowd freaking booed when she got eliminated. By Brandy Rhodes. Seriously. Oh, God. So, yeah, not a very good segment for a number of reasons.
Look, I know you are not a fan of ODB, whereas I am a fan of ODB. It was very predictable she was going to win. I'm not really going to knock on that, but, man, this match it was bad. It was terrible all around. MJ Jenkins is the one that they have reported that they have signed. Is that right?
Now, I believe Diamante is reportedly signed. That's confirmed. MJ is rumored. I think they were impressed with her attitude and that she took like a 22-hour bus ride to get to the tapings. So I think there was talk of her being signed, but right now I think it's all just speculation.
Gotcha. All right. See, for some reason I had thought that MJ Jenkins had been signed, I guess the news just broke. Wasn't it this past week that they just like legitimately had signed Diamante? Like, what the fuck, just now? Like, you look how prominently you've been featuring this girl. Like, what the hell? Casey Quinn / Ava Story or whatever. She's cute. We know she was probably only got paid about $15-20 for that battle royal. If you want to listen to Cody, she apparently showed up on Ring of Honor this past week or something too. But she wasn't that impressive. The other girl, what is it, AC Rodriguez or whatever that they call her?
Amanda Carolina Rodriguez.
Yeah, kind of can't ignore the fact she kind of looked a little preggers. I'm not going to body shame. Like, the RAV could definitely use some loss around his midsection a little bit. I'm working hard, though. But, look, you're a professional wrestler. You're supposed to look in shape. I feel like I guess I'm going to go the PC route and say, like, as a person since I was young, I felt, women are kind of held at a different standard as far as looks and appearances in society, that women have to be skinny, skinny as twigs and looking a certain way. So I'm not going to knock the girl for maybe being a little out of shape. The belly was clearly showing. If Kevin Steen / Kevin Owens can be the guy on ROH and WWE, it's totally fine for this girl to have that physical feature and appearance to her. I'm not going to knock it. But, she still didn't look very impressive in the ring. And no one really did in this. I had heard a lot of reports about an improving Rebel. I haven't seen too much of it. I'm glad she's back. I'm a fan of Rebel. But I see Rebel as like a Miss Elizabeth type of thing. But it just wasn't very good. We have ODB versus Rosemary coming up. It is what it is. Now, one thing that's positive is the Cowboy himself, James Storm, is back. So we saw the DCC, kind of a long time coming, unfortunately. This group is over with. I'll admit, dude, I had no idea that Kingston could cut such a good promo. I was impressed with Kingston coming out of this thing. We saw him and James Storm come to blows. Those two are done. Storm and Bram almost going at it, but didn't get to it there. But FK9, your thoughts on this one?
Kingston is actually an excellent promo. I mean, if you YouTube him, he's cut some great ones over the years. So with him, it was kind of a similar situation to Sienna. They're actually great promo cutters, but they didn't really get to show it off because they were always standing behind someone who was always talking for them. In this case, James Storm. It was nice to see Kingston finally get to show off his mic skills. Might have been too little too late. I never got the impression that they were too high on him in the first place, and he might have only been signed because of Jade, who is no longer there. So my thinking is Kingston is probably on his way out now. Kind of unfortunate. I maintain that the DCC had potential that just kind of got screwed over because the faction kind of got shot in the foot a couple times, be it the departure of Billy Corgan causing that, or certain things just not making air, or the booking and the booking just not being very good, or them clearly not having as good of a plan for the faction as they should have. It was a lot of different factors that led into it, but yeah, I guess it wasn't really working out as well as it could have or should have, and the new regime's clearly pulling the plug, which kind of sucks for those guys, but the silver lining is that it looks like James Storm wants into the world title picture, which is something I think we can all get behind. If this is leading to James Storm going on a big singles run and finally getting that run with the world title that we all want to see, I can be down for that. Hashtag Storm for champ.
Hashtag Storm for champ. It definitely needs to happen with James Storm. James Storm needs to win that world title, and hopefully either him or EC3 ends up beating Bobby Lashley for it here real quick. Dude, so yeah, I worry about Kingston as well. Jade's gone. They haven't really done much with him. We've at least all gotten to get behind Bram and at least know what's going on with Bram for a couple of years now. Since 2014, he's been with them. He's signed about 35 extensions, so I think Bram is going to be there until at least 2050. But yeah, Kingston, I haven't seen his stuff. I had heard about him. I was never that impressed with what I saw in Impact, but when he came out and cut this promo and was talking on James Storm, I was like, damn, okay, Kingston got some fire to him. Let's see what this guy can do. Hopefully they don't drop the ball. We'll talk about Bram later, but it kind of seems as if they may be splitting the two apart. So it does make you wonder what's going to happen with Kingston. Personally, maybe him and he can do something with LAX. His Homicide is there, his partner. They consist of Outlaw Inc. Clearly, they already have a tag team in LAX, but I'd like to see Kingston and Homicide maybe do their thing again, and hopefully something with that. Hopefully they don't let this guy go. I remember from the tapings, Jade was sending out tweets that she loves him and that he always busts his ass and never gets any credit or recognition for it. I mean, the guy was doing the NXT thing and left to come here, so who knows, but definitely impressed with Kingston. Hopefully there's at least a blow-off here between these guys. Hopefully they don't cost Storm the world title if he gets the shot, but hashtag Storm for champ. So as we move on from that, Andrew Everett, we have another multi-man X Division match with Andrew Everett getting the victory over Suicide, a.k.a. Caleb Konley, playing double duty, and Mr. Jive Turkey himself, Marche Rocket. We saw GS Helms come out and say that he's one step closer to facing that technical savage Trevor Lee for the belt. Andrew Everett, 2-0 win streak on a roll. FK9, thoughts on this one?
So once again, we're back to the multi-man spot fest matches in the X Division, but at least they're pushing a one-on-one feud, which is very good. I was hoping this feud wasn't done. Good match. I still think that Marche Rocket would probably be a better fit in the mid-card somewhere. They keep trying to make him an X Division guy. It's still an awkward fit on him, kind of like it was with Braxton Sutter, who has since found a better, a more fitting place for himself. So maybe they can find a better place for this guy. I don't know. But, yeah, good match. Good to see Andrew Everett getting another win. What confused me about this is, kayfabe-wise, does Gregory Shane Helms have booking power in the X Division? Like, is he, like, a part of management somehow? Because it seems like he has the power to book matches all of a sudden. And can he make stipulations like, oh, if you lose this match, you can't get a title shot or whatever? Does he have the power to book that? Because I don't think that's ever been made clear on the show.
I have no idea. It seems like there's about 20 people that have some sort of power to make matches in Impact right now, but I don't know if Helms is one of them.
Yeah, it's like this big management consortium. But apparently Dutch Mantel is on it, and Pritchard is on it, and Karen is on it somehow. But is GS Helms in that group too? I mean, it would help if they'd at least tell us exactly how many authority figures we have.
Right. I myself, I know Josh and JB hang out in the meetings, but they apparently don't have the power. I'm sure, I think the conception that Jeff Jarrett has some power is in there, even though he hasn't been on TV because his wife is in there, and God, I don't know.
Man, for a while now, I've been really enjoying the fact that Impact didn't have any authority figures, because I thought that was really refreshing after that whole authority figure role had been really played out for a long time now. And now all of a sudden we have an indeterminate number of authority figures. How did that happen?
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that. I was actually thinking that the other day, just how it was nice for at least a solid year. I don't know if maybe it was 2 years where we just didn't have a goddamn authority figure. Because it's not even just been beaten to death by the WWE. Like, Impact has beaten it to death, too. Like, both companies have beaten it to death. I think ROH did it well when they had Nigel McGuinness as their matchmaker or whatever they called him. But, yeah, it sucks that we went back to this. I want to see the Andrew Everett push. I don't mind the multi-man X Division matches as long as it's not the only thing we get, which it was pretty much the only thing we've gotten for years now. So, obviously, we're building to Andrew Everett versus Trevor Lee, which is something I want to see. I think Andrew Everett and Trevor Lee, other than DJZ and his fractured beehole, those are the guys that represent the X Division. But we know we're not going to see DJZ for a while. So, I mean, these are the two guys that represent it the most in the company right now. And the others that do are kind of in tag teams right now with LAX and Garza and Laredo. So it's good to see this coming. I want to see Andrew Everett and Trevor Lee get a legit, real classic X Division title match, the ones that we haven't seen in a long time, that used to define this company. That's what I want to see come from this.
Agreed.
Yeah. And so as we moved on past the X Division, by far, in my opinion, the best part of the show by miles and miles and miles and miles was the last man standing match with Davey versus Eddie. There's a spot there where I don't know how in the hell they expected us to think Davey could get up when it looked like Eddie kind of broke his neck in the chair or whatnot. So Davey, what is it Alexa? What's Eddie's wife? What are they calling her in the company?
On the Indies, she's Alexis Nevaeh, and I guess in Impact, she's going to be Alicia.
Okay, Alicia, yeah. So her and Angelina getting involved, kind of seems as if Angelina's kind of like the craziness that gets into Davey's head, where, you know, you see some human compassion and stuff with Davey, but then that natural born killer thing clicks when Angelina tells him what to do. It's the way she looks at him, possesses him to take the head of those that look her way, quoting some It Dies Today there. But match of the night, I'm glad Davey won. FK9, kill it with your thoughts on this one.
These guys did some pretty brutal stuff to each other. Eddie powerbombed Davey on a couple of chairs, and they did the big superplex spot where they were standing on the top turnbuckle and suplexed each other off there. And then there was the double foot stomp with Davey's head through the chair. These guys really beat the hell out of each other, so kudos to that. One of the best matches on Impact in a while. Of course, we with these two guys, we knew that was going to happen. It got a little weird for me when the women got involved. I'm still iffy on whether or not the women need to be involved. I mean, I'll admit it does add like a different dimension to this thing that we haven't seen before, because we've seen Davey versus Eddie before, and like I think it was an ROH, but adding the women it adds a little something else. I'm just not sure if that's needed, but it did get a little weird because when Angelina interferes in the match, I think she jumps on Eddie's back or something, and then Alicia jumps the railing and she attacks Angelina. What I don't understand is, where the hell was security? Angelina is a contracted member of the roster. Okay, so she has a reason to be out there. It's no DQ stipulation, so she can get involved, and that's all perfectly legal. But kayfabe-wise, Alicia is not a member of the roster yet. So basically, it's a fan jumping the crowd barrier and attacking a member of the roster, and security is nowhere to be seen? Am I nitpicking on this? Maybe, but little details like that can make or break a match sometimes. And for me, that stood out like a sore thumb.
You know, if Impact Wrestling security is not going to be checking these people and anyone can just hop in the match and interfere like Eddie Edwards' wife did, Chef, where you at with your boy Bram? Bram could be world champ right now if they're going to allow that to happen, because Chef would have his back every match. But, you know, I thought this was by far the best match we've seen on Impact in a while, too. Definitely been the best match of these tapings. I'm glad Davey won. You know, you bring out having the women involved, and I have no problem with that, but what I would have preferred to see would to have been legitimately let Davey go out there with Eddie one-on-one without kind of interference or, you know, other distractions in the match. Just let these two go out there and fucking tear the house down and let Davey get that fucking victory. You know, it's Davey's going to look dirty in this regardless, you know, because it's last man standing. He can do all the dastardly shit, too. It doesn't make Eddie look weak or the baby face look bad. The chain on the foot and the kick, the whole pile of chairs that were there. Eddie was the one that took the bump on the fucking garbage can, wasn't it? The big waste management trash can that was there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Man, that when he put Davey's neck in the chair and did the stomp that way, man, that was brutal. That was sick.
Yeah.
That was just ill. I can't, and you know, it's like, how the fuck do you expect Davey to get up from that? But, you know, it makes Davey look strong to get up from that. And it's what we talked about. So, like, if Eddie is legitimately hurt, you know, and he's not on the show next week, it does allow it, as they go into the live shows, to make it seem like Davey did a lot more damage to Eddie. So it does sell that. I hope we get Eddie back. I hope the guy's not legitimately hurt. But there's a silver lining in that, with selling it to bring Eddie back looking stronger. Obviously, that feud's not over with, especially with Eddie's wife and Angelina involved as well. I don't think that's the last of it by any stretch of the imagination. And, you know, we'll let it go, too. You're right, the feud did happen in Ring of Honor, but we've seen some very friendly matches between Davey and Eddie on a couple Impacts. We've seen it multiple times on some one-night-only shows. So definitely props to the Lone Wolf, the American Wolf, Mr. AIP. Eddie's got new trunks with the AIP. Davey rocking the man Speedo. So definitely some good stuff there.
Yeah, and, you know, in the interest of just looking at both sides of it, even though I'm not sure the stuff with the women is strictly necessary, it does add something different to this feud that we haven't really seen before. And there was kind of an interesting storyline development there where Davey kind of had a little bit of an attack of conscience before he was going to kick Eddie with the chain. And then Angelina, she kind of convinces him to do it. It's kind of like that Family Guy gimmick where Peter, he has like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder. And then the devil just shoots the angel with a shotgun. And he says, yeah, you're going to listen to me now. And so Angelina's kind of like the devil on the shoulder. He's just... when he's not sure what to do, he'll listen to anything she says, and she'll bring him over to the dark side. So I'm not sure how they resolved that. Do they just they have Davey to tell Angelina that she's sleeping on the couch, and he just decides to be friends with Eddie again? I'm not sure what the payoff for that is going to be, other than splitting up Davey and Angelina, which he probably wouldn't want to do. But it is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. She's definitely the kind of the bad conscience for Davey, the killer instinct there. So the other thing, like, I don't have a problem with, or, you know, I'm not one who, like, enjoys seeing PDA in public. Like, I get it, couples are happy, my life is miserable now, but people who want to kiss and make out and be all affectionate in public and whatnot, that's not my thing. You know, I don't like to see that. I don't do it when I am in a relationship and whatnot. But, you know, JB's making a big deal out of Davey and Angelina kissing and whatnot. Let them fucking make out. Let them kiss. Goddamn, shut up, JB. Goddamn sorry sap. Let them go. Just let them bang on TV. Who cares? Amp it up attitude style. Yeah. So the Veterans of War promo or vignette or whatever you want to call this aired. We saw some good old George W. Bush talking about guys that had been through combat. They'll be coming to Impact Wrestling. I don't know if we're going to play spoiler on this or not, but the rumor is this is supposed to be Crimson and Gunner coming back as a tag team, which I've been excited for. Have you heard anything about this? Or I guess if this is the case, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it is the case. Yeah, they showed you didn't see their whole faces, but you saw enough of it to tell who it was. It's definitely Crimson and Gunner. I said I was excited about Crimson coming back on Twitter, and he liked the tweet. So it's definitely those two. And it's kind of ridiculous how much work this new regime has put into the tag team division when we only had like 3 teams all last year. Like, if they can do, if they can introduce this many new teams this quickly, what the hell was the problem last year with the previous regime? Were they just not interested? It's just funny to me how we just crowned new tag team champions. We got 3, we got new LAX, we got the Punks, we got the Latinos, and now here comes the veterans, and now it's like, who's next? Suddenly we've got an actual tag team division again. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I'm excited, more so for Crimson. I think that was a guy that had serious main event potential, that was really starting to click with his heel character, and then for some reason they just took him off TV and got rid of him. Not really sure what happened there. Maybe there were problems backstage, I don't know, but I guess they've been keeping tabs on him. They brought him back like once or twice since then, and I guess now he's getting another shot. I'm excited about it. Maybe teaming with Gunner will have a good impact on him or whatever. Nice to see Gunner back too. I wasn't quite as high on him, but it's another tag team, which is good. We've got an actual division there, so get excited for that one.
Yeah, I'm excited as hell about these two coming back, man. Apparently these guys did this gimmick in OVW and they did really well together. I'm very excited about this, and I've been clamoring for years for them to bring the goddamn tag team division back to Impact Wrestling, because back in the days, Impact Wrestling, like the Knockouts, the tag team, and the X Division is what made this company great. And they talk about make Impact great. Impact used to be great. It really was. It would be make it great again if we were going to go that route. I obviously understand why they're not actually adding that part in there. But there's a fucking tag team division again, and it's awesome. And there's probably going to be more teams made. Obviously, we kind of lost one with Aaron Rex and Spud that were potential there. There's still Eli Drake and Tyrus potentially as one, too. Rockstar Spud and EC3, hint, hint, hint. Kingston and Bram, maybe Outlaw Inc. could come in. But I'm excited as hell to see these guys. And obviously, the Veterans of War, with what's going on, they're going to have to go over Rafi from the league and Yokozuna Jr. here soon. That's got to be their first thing. Of course, they're going to need to bring back, what was the French tag team that was just in there that we just lost? The Tribunal? Yeah, of course we got to have that French versus American rivalry, especially when it's a war America gimmick. I'm kidding around, but it's awesome to see the tag team division come back. And yeah, Crimson was a dude they pushed down our throats way too hard in that Hogan era. You know, they kind of made him have the Goldberg streak, and it failed. And it wasn't Crimson's fault, really.
It was just a really poorly booked angle.
Exactly.
It could have worked. They just botched it all to hell with the win streak.
Yeah, exactly. And it could have had its. They tried to do too much, too quick with it, and push it too far, and then it failed. And then like James Storm came out and beat him in like 10 seconds, and then Crimson had like one more match on TV, and then it was like never used again. And Gunner is a guy like. When you talk about the stages of wrestling, there's the in-ring ability, there's the talking skills, and then there's a look. Honest to God, on a look perspective, Gunner's a fucking 10 out of 10. For making it as a pro wrestler, like Gunner has that look that's like flawless to him. Like everything that you would want to see as a badass looking dude, like Gunner has it all. His wrestling ability is pretty solid. He's not the main event material that I think they were trying to push him to. You know, James Storm, was it 2014? Yeah, when James Storm just busted his ass and got Gunner over so damn much to do everything to put Gunner over. We're supposed to get behind the guy. They did that stupid shit with Sam Shaw and never used the guy again, and he was gone. Sorry. Why were we supposed to get invested in this guy?
I think it was another example, kind of similar to Crimson, ironically, where they had a lot of the pieces that they just needed to assemble, and for one reason or another, they just didn't come together quite right, and it wasn't necessarily his fault. He just became a victim of bad booking and bad timing and whatever else. So I'm really excited for both these guys to get another shot. Maybe they've been working on their game since then. I mean, Gunner was actually pretty close to main event status at one point. I mean, it didn't take, but I remember he had that one match. I think it was with Magnus on the UK tour. I think James Storm was the referee at the time. I think it was a match for the world title. I remember that segment coming off really well. I'm thinking, wow, Gunner, he's been doing work. That could have gone a hell of a lot worse. That was actually really good. And then I think he kind of peaked at that point. And then they did the feud with James Storm, and then he got bogged down in the thing with Sam Shaw, which didn't work. And then he just kind of disappeared. So they both kind of became victims of bad creative. So hopefully they'll get a better shot this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they will. And I think, with Gunner, I remember years ago, I know there was a one-night only show, and I want to say it was like a Victory Road or a title like that, where it was the winner of this battle royal or whatnot is going to get a world title shot. Gunner won it. You never heard anything about it on TV. Surprise, surprise. But it seems like now the one-night onlys actually have a point and a reason to them that they actually use them on TV. We'll probably hear more about that hopefully later with this new regime. But it just, Gunner was strictly like the definition of the shit John Gaburek would pull, where you're supposed to get behind a wrestler and he shoves them and crams them down your throat and then just stops using them and fucking lets them go. And it's like, oh, well, we have someone that can replace his body on the roster. Bram kind of looks like him physically, so we'll just replace him with Bram. And it's like, no, you don't. That's not how it works. You don't just have this little tiny depleted ass roster and just say there's one guy gone and we'll replace him with another. No, you need to keep building. We have a regime now that Jeff Jarrett's a consultant for, where Jeff Jarrett, when he was running Impact Wrestling, it assembled the best talented roster I have ever seen, other than maybe the WCW roster, back in the 90s, or what the WWF was able to do when they first monopolized the entire industry, back in the late 80s or early 80s. So I think that we're going to see more talent in Impact. We'll kind of talk on that a little bit later towards the end. But, definitely a plus there, and I look forward to seeing the Veterans of War.
Yeah, maybe change the name. Yeah, not crazy about Veterans of War. It's not as catchy as it could be. I thought Dogs of War would have been a catchier name, but we can workshop that all we want.
Exactly. So Alberto El Patron made his return. He beat some dude that I could not catch his name. I don't know if you caught it. So squashed a jobber real quick. I literally have no fucking idea the guy's name, but and then he called out Bobby Lashley, and heading towards that, I really don't have much to say about this segment as a whole. FKN, you got anything you want to say on this one?
Ironically, you probably could have cut this entire segment and not lost a thing. And I'm not sure why they didn't, given what happened at the very end of the show that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But Yeah, if Patron comes out, he beats up a jobber. I didn't get his name either. I don't think he even gave him one. And then he calls out Bobby Lashley, and Lashley doesn't show up. I guess the implication is that he was afraid to face Patron, but then he came out to face Patron later in the night. So what was the point of this? I'm not really sure. The whole thing just felt really awkward and kind of pointless. I guess squash matches do have a purpose on the show from time to time, but do the top guys really need that? I mean, what's the point? To show that the top guy can beat a ham and egger? We know that. I don't think we needed to see Patron squash some no-name guy. We didn't need to see Lashley squash a no-name guy. I think it was last week or the week before. It's just eating up TV time that could be better used in other things.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this was unnecessary all around. I mean, I know the point was he's going to call out Lashley and whatnot. I'm all for jobbers coming back in wrestling because I think it kind of keeps feuds fresh when you're building to it. You bring up the thing where Lashley beat a jobber the other week, and that was one that I thought, okay, what is the point in this? Why is the world champ coming out there and beating up a jobber? Is this a title match? Is this jobber getting a title shot? Does he win the belt if he beats Lashley? So that's why it's kind of like, why are they doing this? I do know that I did hear someone mention the guy's name. One of the commentators mentioned this guy's name, but, it is what it is. The more interesting thing about Alberto El Patron is he went on some drunken rants. Did you hear about his drunken rants that he went on about the WWE and the person that leaked pages, videos, and photos out and whatnot?
I haven't seen the Twitter rant myself. Somebody told me about it during my live stream a couple days ago. Apparently I think he was accusing Triple H of leaking Paige's sex tape. Beats me how he thinks Triple H would have even had access to such a thing. Yeah, and he kind of made fun of Triple H, the size of Triple H's nose and stuff like that. Yeah. Obviously he was just kind of off his rocker, and I don't know. Not sure. I'm sure it's funny, but again, it does kind of point to this guy being volatile. Which we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, back when there was talk about this guy coming in the first place, how he can't seem to go any stretch of time without getting into some kind of trouble, without getting into like a bar fight or getting arrested or being drunk in public or whatever. So here he is, obviously a little inebriated, not really in his right mind, and he's just going off about anything that pisses him off at any given time. So I don't know. It does kind of point to this guy being a little bit of a flight risk. So I think it's just something that they need to keep an eye on, because it seems like this guy can be set off by the smallest things. So just for future reference impact, just try to mind your P's and Q's around the guy and try not to upset him, because if he gets upset, there's no telling what he might do.
Yeah, he definitely. I mean, he insinuated that he knew who leaked Paige's info out. I don't know if it was necessarily meaning Triple H. He did call pretty much everyone in WWE a bunch of pussies, especially the one with the big nose. I assume that one was probably a Triple H. Maybe it could have been Nate. It made me laugh, and he had talked about how that company had made him so unhappy and whatnot. And look, maybe with Impact Wrestling, maybe that's taken away his unhappiness. And he had talked about how he had to say how everything had to be said there. Let's call a spade a spade. He had said that the first time he left him, they threw some money his way, and he came right back to him too. So
yeah, and that first time he left, it was because of allegations of racism in management.
Yeah, and him slapping someone in the face over it, smacked another dude in the face over that too. So
yeah, and then he comes back later on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when I lost respect for the guy after gaining it. Obviously he's with us now. I have an open mind. Basically what I'm getting at is hopefully with Impact Wrestling, he's happy now, and his rants and problems and fights in public and all that shit that happened when he first left the WWE are over with now, and maybe that was just some stemming rage and built up anger and frustration from working for Satan's company. But anyways, Alberto, keep your head on straight, buddy. So the next segment we had was Braxton and Allie getting into it with KM and Sienna. Karen interrupted, said that they'll settle it next week. So assuming we have an intergender tag match, is that what you got from this too?
I think so. Yeah, I have to say, as Sienna not taking any of Karen's shit is rapidly becoming one of my favorite things about this show. because she's kind of like the voice of the fans in that situation. She's saying everything to Karen that I wish I could say to her if I was there. You know, she's calling her out on the nepotism, and she's only there because of who she's married to, and she's like, okay, yeah, yes, sir, Mrs. Jarrett, just oozing sarcasm. It's glorious. I love what Sienna's doing right now. It just kind of sucks that it takes Karen being there to get it. But yeah, cool that we're getting that match. I've been saying for a couple weeks now that it's probably time to kind of accelerate the Allie storyline a little bit, because it has noticeably cooled off since the wedding when it was red hot. And then I guess Maria leaving kind of threw a monkey wrench into that. But I mean, her character has developed enough where she's not really the helpless rookie anymore. Now she can kind of handle herself a little bit storyline wise. So yeah, it makes sense to kind of get her in the ring a little bit and kind of reheat the iron there. So I guess mixed tag, okay, all right, I'll take that. I became a fan of KM instantly afterward. After last week when he tore into Karen there too. So the funny thing about this is I'm kind of treating Sienna and KM like the baby faces, because Allie and Braxton apparently being buddies with Karen now for some reason. It seems like such an unwise decision, because I think it's kind of going to make people turn on them a little bit, because people don't like Karen. They like Allie. And I think by extension, they've she's kind of bringing Braxton Sutter along with him, so they care about Braxton as long as he's standing next to Allie. But when both of them are standing next to Karen, that's just dragging them down to where Karen is, and that's not what you want. And unfortunately, Jeff Jarrett doesn't really see it that way, because he views the woman through rose-colored glasses. So somebody's got to keep it real about the Karen situation, and we've got that. Only problem is, they're the heels, and it doesn't come across like they're telling it like it is. It comes across like them being heels. So I guess Karen being someone that we're supposed to sympathize with is something that we just got to tolerate in this situation right now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the match. Looking forward to Allie getting in the ring more, and hopefully we can turn to the next chapter in this LVN jilted drunken bridezilla gimmick. Because I'm looking forward. It wasn't on the show this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that one goes next as well.
Yeah, I don't have that much to say about this segment at all. It is what it is, and truthfully, I didn't pay that much of attention to it either. The loss of Maria Kanellis-Bennett, it has benefited Sienna a lot. It has done wonders for her on Impact Wrestling, but it's also taken a lot away from Allie, which stinks. And so is Braxton himself. And you're talking about how people may, kind of turn on Braxton and Allie, sort of a thing, which would be terrible for Allie. But I think like a heel turn might be the best thing for Braxton, because here's the thing, dude. Like the guy, he's just not getting over. He just seems like that kind of kiss ass, fucking like ho hum kind of a shucks guy. With no real character emotion or whatnot. And so it's like, gee, how do we turn this guy that no one really likes or gets into? How do we make the fans how do we make the guys like him and get behind him? Oh, I know, let's have him swimming in pussy. That's going to make every guy like him. No, that's wrong too. Because it's like, man, why the fuck is LBN into Braxton? Why the fuck is Allie into Braxton? Well, we kind of know why Allie's into Braxton. Allie, could you answer that for us? But, it's just like, dude, there's nothing like KM in one shot. He's spoken once on TV last week and a little bit, or 2 weeks ago and a little bit last week. He's already more over than Braxton. He's already done more. It sucks for Allie, but it's been wonders for Sienna, and I'm a big fan of Sienna, so I'm glad to see her getting this rub and this push. But man, they got to do something with Braxton. Put him in a tag team or something.
Yeah, I think the deal with him is that he's used to working as a heel. Because I don't know, I wasn't incredibly familiar with Pepper Parks prior to him coming in, but every time I saw him in YouTube matches or whatever, he was always working as a heel. So maybe that's where he's more comfortable. Maybe that's where the personality would come out more. I'm not sure how that would work, because Allie absolutely needs to be a babyface, at least for the near future. So maybe it's just always going to be a bit of an awkward fit with him until something changes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's either turn Pepper the Body Parks into the heel that he kind of does on the indies, or, get him turn him heel and give him a manager I don't know, Rockstar Spud. How about take him and Jive Turkey and put them together with Rockstar Spud as their manager, something like that. I mean, two guys that are just struggling to get over because they've been casted in the X division, something that they shouldn't be in. Like, thankfully they're getting Braxton out of it, but they're not doing shit with Rocket, right? So, and you'd think with fucking Double J and Dirty Dutch and Scott D'Amore and shit back in there that they wouldn't be fucking around and putting Marche Rocket in the X division and whatnot, but it is what it is, and just hopefully something changes there. But we'll see next week. I know there's a kind of a big thing that happened in that match, so we'll see what happens from there. So you talk about some weird shit. Dude, who goes to a nightclub with a pro wrestling ring set up in there to cut some sort of a promo in front of like 40 people in a club trying to get their fuck on and get their hookup going down, and then just walks out and leaves? Because that's what LAX did, apparently. This was like the weirdest shit ever. I know, right? It was so bizarre.
I was wondering where they were. I was like, were they at an indie show? Is this a live event of some kind? Where are they? Because we know Impact isn't running live events right now. So was this a Universal Studios thing? Did they go to one of the restaurants at the park and just set up a ring just so they could film this vignette in front of some club goers or something? Where were they? I was confused by that. I mean, the promo came off well, I guess, but the staging of the whole thing was confusing to me.
Yeah, I had the same questions. Like, at first I'm like, are they in a fucking club right now? And like, what club sets up a wrestling ring so they can have someone show up for like 1 or 2 minutes? And then it's like, what are they at an indie show? Where exactly are they? But I'm pretty sure like they just walked into a club and they were like, hey, the club owner was like, what's really going to sell is putting a pro wrestling ring in here that no one can fucking go into except for, LAX for 1 or 2 minutes so Conan can say some shit. And nothing's going to attract more people than a 50-year-old Conan, and you're talking about a late period. And then just walking out. But, yeah, this was just so bizarre. Dude, I'm loving the LAX vignettes, it's making LAX come off serious, and there's language, there's shit that's going on in there. It's, kind of got that whole, we're an adult show, adult themed pro wrestling show going to it now, but, okay. This was the most bizarre fucking shit I had seen in a while.
I liked it though. I think I like the fact that they can do stuff like this, like go to other locations, and they can do stuff at like the LAX clubhouse and shit. All these videos have been really cool and well produced. I think Kevin Sullivan is really killing it since he's been back. It's odd, but at least it shows that they're kind of thinking outside the box, and they're not just having LAX come out to the ring for like a generic promo like we'd see everybody else doing. Now they're doing other stuff. I think it's going to help them get over in the long run. They're doing stuff to differentiate themselves from everybody else, kind of like how Decay's backstage segments are always filmed differently and lit differently from everybody else, and you get the different cinematography going. Stuff like that really helps groups stand out from each other. So I agree, it was weird, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Kevin Sullivan really is mastering those tasks. Just kidding, because it's the wrong Kevin Sullivan. But, you're right, it is different with them, at least. It does make LAX seem different, and it's not the same generic promo. You mentioned how DK is different as well. Just all I'm saying, Impact Wrestling, stop doing DK wrong. This new regime, push that fucking team, because I'm tired of seeing Steve and Abyss get jobbed out like this. We don't see as much Rosemary as we should. I get they're kind of spreading everyone around, but don't fuck up the DK. That's still a great team overall. My boy Crazy Steve deserves better than this, and at least Rosemary's getting at least Rosemary's still the champ, in a dominant reign, but she's still not being able to go out and be Rosemary like she normally is. But, yeah. The other thing that's really not been positive, and I'm not going to front like I didn't enjoy the show. I heard a lot of people shit on the show. I thought it was a pretty decent show. Was it their best? No, it was probably this one and the first one of this new regime's tapings were probably the worst shows. But definitely the thing that's been the worst has been this Jeremy Borash and Josh Matthews bickering back and forth. And it's hard to actually get behind JB. It's hard to be like a fan of Jeremy Borash and see him as the face right now, because it's just like you hate fucking both of these guys. But so they've picked their teams, and now basically, so we had Bobby Lashley Bram, Eli Drake, and Tyrus is Josh Matthews' team. And then you had Jeremy Borash had picked Alberto El Patron, and he had picked Chris Adonis, a.k.a. Chris Masters. Then this starts, and then Josh Matthews' team attacks those two guys. FK9, up to this point, what's your thoughts on all this?
Okay, they're obviously using this whole angle as a vehicle to introduce or reintroduce a lot of these people. I think the roster's getting a little bloated. I don't know how the hell they're going to find time to feature all these people, but that's a topic for another time. Some of the picks for these teams really didn't make any sense to me at all. Josh picks Lashley, JB picks El Patron. Okay, that makes sense. Then Josh picks Bram, who just a few minutes prior had gotten completely humiliated by James Storm. So the timing on that one was bad. JB picks, what was the next one? Was that the next one Chris Adonis? Yeah, Chris Adonis, a.k.a. Chris Masters, a.k.a. a two-time WWE failure. Why? When has this guy ever been a star? Was anyone excited or even interested in seeing them bring this guy in? I guess they brought him in because I guess he worked for GFW and he's one of Jarrett's guys, and yay cronyism for the win or something. Because Jarrett, he's very loyal to his people, so he's got to bring in Chris Adonis. They're seeing something in this guy that I don't think anyone else sees. I mean, certainly not the fans. I don't think there was any real excitement for this guy. So whatever. Why choose him? Has he ever really accomplished anything impressive? I don't think so. Okay, Josh picks Eli Drake. Okay, great. Nice to see him in a main event segment. And then Tyrus? What kind of sense does this make? If Josh wants to win this match, why pick a guy for his team who never wins matches? He's acting all smug about it, like he's made some kind of coup here. Like he's picked a guy who's like this ultra super badass or something. But it's just Tyrus. He sucked then, he sucks now, and having some segment on like the Fox News channel or whatever the hell it is, that doesn't change that. His win-loss record is still the same. The guy sucks. And we're all just supposed to forget about that? It was very strange and very awkward, and it didn't do the segment any favors at all. It started out good, but then some of the later picks have just had me really scratching my head.
The points I want to make here is, so by Matthew selecting Bram, it makes me think that him and Kingston, that tag team, probably done with, which makes me wonder about Kingston's future. Second is, they had said these can be people from the past or used to be on the Impact roster but aren't currently there. So it makes me wonder if some of these guys that are on JB's team are only going to be here for one night, which I'm hoping is not the case, to be honest. You do mention that the roster could get a little bloated, and I totally get that. I do for a fact, but I want them to get more people on the roster because the roster has been so thin for years. And truthfully, there's two guys in particular we're going to mention here that I want to see back for a while, that I wanted to see return. And the third thing that I wanted to bring up, and I know I'm forgetting this point. Okay, no, I'm not. Am I the only fucking person alive that doesn't remember Chris Masters being in Impact Wrestling in the past? Like, I don't fucking remember him ever being on TNA. Apparently this happened a couple years ago during the GFW invasion or whatnot. I do not fucking remember him. Look, I'll keep it real. The RIB used to do a lot of fucking drugs a couple years back, but I don't think I did that much. I don't remember this guy. Do you remember him?
I remember him being there. For the life of me, I don't remember anything that he did. I think he might have been in the Lethal Lockdown match that ended the whole thing. But yeah, that just goes back to my point, is that the guy is just very unmemorable. He doesn't stand out. He looks good, sure, but what else about the guy is impressive at all? Honestly, I don't see why the hell they would want or even have any desire to bring this guy in when you basically got Jesse doing a very similar gimmick, and Jesse has already proven himself in the last year to be far more talented, at least when it comes to the wrestling side of things. Why not just give Jesse Goddard a renewed push? Why do you need Chris Masters for?
Yeah, Jesse's definitely a whole lot better. The thing, like when Chris Masters was big in the WWE when they first pushed the guy, he had a physique that was fucking outstanding. Then he got busted for steroids. And Chris Adonis don't look like an Adonis anymore. He doesn't. He's in good shape, but dude, he's not like, dude, Jesse Goddard's got a better physique. Easy 3 is bigger. Like, his master lock isn't believable anymore. You know what I mean? I'm not opposed to this guy coming to Impact Wrestling. And just to bring him up real fast, because had I known about this show happening next week, I would have probably went to do it. But we never get like indie wrestling in the state of Oregon anymore. Like the WWE will show up and we get this Portland wrestling thing. But next week we have in Hermiston, Oregon, of all places, which is like a little podunk fucking city, we have Davey Richards is going to be wrestling. Goddamn, someone who used to be in the UFC. I can't remember his name right now. He's not the like real popular wrestler on the indie scene, but he's going to be there. And Chris Adonis is wrestling, I think, another guy from the Impact Wrestling roster here in Oregon next Saturday. I'm not going to be able to go, but I would love to go see Davey Richards. But it's weird that I saw Chris Adonis, and I know it was someone else from the Impact Wrestling roster is going to be there. So Raven Effect's missing out on that. So the 4-on-2 beatdown starts happening, and the guy I'm happy about coming back, the Blueprint Matt Morgan, returns, clears house. He has a stare down with Bobby Lashley going, and FK9. To Impact Wrestling, Matt Morgan starts getting beat down, and then they show the guy in the GFW car, or in the car get out. I guess I just give away our little reveal, but they show JV's next pick coming in, and then the show just ends.
Yeah.
So I'll let you run down Matt Morgan up until the end of the show, and then we'll talk about what was on the internet to wrap this up.
Okay. You know, I'm happy to see Morgan back. He was a guy who probably should have done more in his last run. He was another guy that was a victim of like bad creative and bad booking. I don't know if he was ever going to be the guy, but I think he probably had more potential than he was allowed to show. So just to see him get another chance after kind of hanging up his boots for a little while and getting a day job, you know, that's fine. But hopefully he kind of stayed in shape. You know, he's obviously still in shape, but hopefully there's not too much ring rust on him. And if he can pick up where he left off, you know, man, I don't know, maybe get a main event run out of the guy. Hopefully, kind of ridiculous that a guy who looks like that shouldn't be able to get one. So we'll see. Happy to see him get another chance. And yeah, then JB's final pick walks into the building and we don't see who it is. And then Pope is saying, "Oh, go to the website to see who it is." And then the show ends. That was weird. I was really scratching my head as to what exactly happened here. Was this an issue of just poor time management on the show? Was this them doing this intentionally to drive up web traffic now that they've got a website that isn't a complete embarrassment anymore? Were they just trying to drive up views for the YouTube channel? Was it all of these things? Was it something else? Beats the hell out of me. But, you know, it seems to me that there were things on this show that you could have cut to make room for this, so this part could have aired at the end of the show. So I guess we really needed that Alberto El Patron squash of Mr. No Name. So I don't know what the hell happened there, or if that was a timing issue or not. I will say that I am very happy to see, should we just say who it is?
Yeah, you may as well. I mean, you can just take it into there.
Yeah. Magnus.
For those of us who got online.
Yeah. Magnus is back. Talk about a guy that they missed the boat on before. I mean, this is a guy who had a lot of star potential, especially in the UK. I mean, he was basically their gateway star over there back before they thought they needed Grado for that. And maybe they've thought differently about that since having Grado didn't stop them from losing their UK TV deal for a while. But no, they got Magnus back, who could be a legit superstar. I mean, not just in the UK, but in America too, if they used him right. Former world champion. I mean, yeah, his world title reign sucked, but how you could possibly blame him for that, I have no idea, because my God, creative fucked him over with that one. Another victim of bad creative, especially at a really bad time, like right when he ascended to main event status. Jesus Christ. Well, we could talk about that all day, but this is a guy that I'm really excited to see have another run. He's a homegrown guy. He's one of the people they have with like legitimate like breakout potential, like crossover appeal. Again, especially with the UK fans, to see them bring him back, kind of mend fences with him. That's really exciting to me. I know he left on really bad terms, and Christ, who could blame him after that after the storyline where James Storm tried to murder his wife? Let's not even go there again. But yeah, I'm really excited to see Magnus back. Though why they couldn't put this at the end of the show, why they had to air this as like exclusive digital content or whatever, man, that just baffles me. I mean, this is a guy who should be a big deal for you, and this is a guy who I think Jeff Jarrett has said that he wants to be a big deal. He thinks Magnus could be huge for them. So why on earth would you put that on the website instead of the show? Especially when you've got stuff earlier in the show that you could easily cut out without losing a thing. That just makes no sense to me at all. But still, really excited to have Magnus back regardless.
Yeah, I'm excited as hell for Magnus back, and I'm excited as hell for Matt Morgan back. To start with Matt Morgan, the blueprint himself, the DNA of TNA, as he used to be called. I've always been real big on this guy, dude. I mean, the guy's, 6'10", and he's, for a guy that's 6'10" and jacked as fuck with muscle, he's big, he can move around. He's a talented dude. Physically, he can do a lot of shit that a lot of guys his size can't. Back in 2011, they gave him and Mr. Anderson, or it may have been to the very end, the last month in 2010, and January 2011. I know Genesis 2011, I don't know about Against All Odds, but I know that they had Matt Morgan and Ken Anderson headline 2 straight pay-per-views, and they stunk the joint out both times. And I know that's when Anderson was champ and had the fucking concussion issues, and it was kind of the downhill spiral for Anderson too. It didn't work out, and then it's like they didn't know what they were doing with Matt Morgan from that time. It always seemed like building up to that, like Morgan was finally going to get that shot and become the champ, and become the main event guy. And then 2013, I think it was, when he stole Hogan's robe and he came out and he cut that. Matt Morgan was never hotter than he was when he came out and cut that promo to try and get in there to be the savior. The TNA needs to beat Bully and Aces and Eights. And he fought Sting to get into that match, and I mean, Sting just looked terrible, and he put him in that awful-looking scorpion before Morgan passed out from the pain. And then he really wasn't used since. I remember they teamed him up with Joey Ryan for a little bit, but then it was just, that was it. And then, Morgan apparently had his dream job or something working with the gym. He came back. Put over Bram, Slammiversary 2015. Morgan looked good during that, but there was a miscue at some point with him and Bram in the match, and just kind of had a very strange ending to it. But Morgan's a guy that I hope comes back. I hope gets a push. I hope he sticks around, because I think that there's a lot that can be done with Matt Morgan. And so I hope that it's something that sticks. Magnus is the same way. He's a UK guy. I can't believe WWE didn't nab this guy even for the UK tournament. I think it's a slap in the face. I mean, they signed a guy's fucking wife too, but knowing the WWE way, it's probably just a way to try and get them to get split up and divorced. But Magnus is a star, man. He's awesome. No, if anyone wants to blame him for his title reign being a disaster, you don't know what you're talking about. That's John Gaburek, and Dixie Carter even too. But it's good to see him back, and not only the James Storm thing trying to kill his wife, but there's a story about what Magnus said about him having a concussion, Gaburek making him wrestle that way. It's obviously a sign for Magnus to return. There's obviously a sign that John Gaburek's lost his pull in the company with what he's at. But I hope, and I remember a couple weeks ago we had talked about how Impact had apparently offered Magnus a big contract to come back, so hopefully that is a thing and he's back permanently. Yeah. Why the fuck that they ended the show without showing it, but we're like, check us out on ImpactWrestling.com, or what the fuck are you? This was just so stupid and terrible, man. Like, what the fuck? Who fucking does that shit? And like, let's not neglect the fact that Magnus came out with his GFW World Heavyweight title intact. So him being the GFW champ, like Cody's the next GFW Next Gen champ, I mean, that shit is being shown in Impact Wrestling now. So I don't know if we're going to have both belts defended, or maybe they're going to eventually cross over into one or unify the two. But they're fully acknowledging Magnus as the GFW heavyweight champ. We're finally at least going to get an end to this JB and Josh Matthews bickering back and forth shit, and maybe we can actually enjoy some fucking wrestling without the terrible commentating going on between the two bickering back and forth. I hope JB gets the win, because I think JB is a good commentator when we don't have that shit going on. But it just, man, they could have scrapped that El Patron thing or cut it in half or something. They could have just done the squash or the promo, one or the other, and they could have put this on TV. I don't understand it myself either. But for those of us that did actually go ahead and watch, Magnus is back. He is the fourth member.
Yeah, so that's a positive for Team JB. The only issue I have with the whole thing is on Team JB we've got Chris Masters, and on Team GOAT we've got Tyrus. So in a weird way, it's like they kind of want us to not give a shit no matter who wins. Because I don't know about you, but I've got zero investment in either of these guys.
I think I'm more into Adonis / Masters and Tyrus, I guess.
I'll give him that much, sure.
Not by a lot.
Yeah, Tyrus set the bar pretty low on that one.
Right. If Tyrus could move a little bit quicker around the ring, I'd probably be more invested than him than Chris Adonis Masters. But yeah, it's definitely could have had two better selections somewhere or another. I guess James Storm would have made sense to be the guy opposite of Bram, but who knows if you can team him and Magnus up together.
That would have been hard to explain.
Right.
It's like, sorry I pushed your wife onto those train tracks. We cool, bro?
Yeah, she went to NXT. It's all good. We don't, she's a traitor now. What I do hope stems out of that is I hope Eli Drake ends up taking that GFW title off of Magnus and becomes the second ever GFW champion out of this match. But I am excited to see this match next week, though. I hope it's like Survivor Series elimination rules. I don't know about you, but that's what I hope stems from it. But I doubt we're going to see that.
Have they even clarified what the rules are in this one? Is there something at stake? On the show, when they were explaining everything, it kind of seemed like there was just bragging rights on the table and not much else.
I think they may have said the losing team, the commentator is no longer in the booth anymore. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm assuming. Is that basically Team JB versus Team Josh? Whatever team wins, that announcer stays, and losing team's announcer leaves. Okay,
that makes sense. I think there was some kind of YouTube video where that was explained, but why wouldn't you explain it on the show? Maybe they're trying to drive up views for the digital content or something, but it kind of seems like it's strange that you suddenly have to go through like all these different platforms just to get all the necessary information about things. It's odd.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure yet. Maybe it'll all fall into place, but all I really know is that next week I thought this week we were supposed to have James Storm and EC3 have the fan cheer off. We have Andrew Everett trying to move another step closer to his X Division title shot, and then we have this 4-person elimination match. We got Braxton and Ali against Sienna and KM. So there's some good stuff to be excited for on the show.
Yeah, what happened to the James Storm EC3 thing? I thought that was supposed to be this week.
Yeah, I do too. Hopefully it's not something that's forgotten about. So when we brought it up to Chef last week, Chef said that it did happen. So hopefully we'll see that next week. But there's definitely plenty to be excited for heading into Impact this upcoming week. I don't know if you have anything else that you'd like to add before we head out. Any parting thoughts for Heelcast Nation?
Nah, I'm all ranted out. My voice is starting to go, so let's just wrap this up.
All right, man. It's getting late, too. So, RAV, Raven Effects, definitely not my best work today. I apologize. With the real FK9, Heelcast Nation, thanks for checking us out. Check out Impact Wrestling this week. Have a good week, y'all. We will see you next week.